Okay, hello and welcome everyone to SuDRO's online session. I'm Nirma Siddiq, coordinator of Sudan Eco Center of Excellence, and I will be your facilitator for today's session. SuDRO and Sudan Center of Excellence, we are really thrilled to host the esteemed Healthcare Without Borders team. This event promises to be an enlightening session where the team will delve into their innovative use of technology in emergency medicine. Attendees can look forward to gain valuable insights from their extensive experience and expertise in leveraging cutting-edge technological solutions to improve emergency medical care. Hello, everyone, again. And first, I'm going to talk a few words about our organizations. First of all, here is a general outline for today's session. I want to talk about our program stakeholders, which are SuDRO, Sudan Federal Ministry of Health, UNMC team, Global Project ECHO, Sudan Medical Specialization Board, and of course, Health Tech Without Borders. This is for those who doesn't know SuDRO, it stands for Sustainable Development Response Team. It is a non-profit organization operating to build sustainable communities through partnership, knowledge exchange, and capacity building. The organization operates through youth volunteering and initiatives established by the volunteers themselves according to the needs of the community. CMRT, which stands for Community Medical Response Team. It is an interprofessional team in SuDRO to improve community health and well-being through active participation for a more aware, engaged, and healthy community. It started in 2021 during the pandemic and initially focused on COVID-19 prevention and management. Sudan Eco Center of Excellence is a collaboration where eco hubs across Sudan can share vital infrastructure and human resources without duplicating efforts, using the global Project ECHO model to implement the national training activities under SuDRO. Just a housekeeping reminder for you all, please make sure that your cameras and your microphones are off. We're gonna have time for your questions and we're gonna answer them by the end of the session. And this session will be recorded for all of you. I would like to welcome our guests for today, Dr. Jaren and Dr. Mary. Dr. Jaren is an associate professor at Harvard Medical School, a critical care and emergency medicine physician, and he's the co-founder of Health Tech Without Borders Incorporation. Dr. Mary is a physician associate professor at Yale School of Medicine. She's a chief liaison officer to Health Tech Without Borders and holds a PhD in security and intelligence studies for the University of Buckingham. Dr. Jaren and Dr. Mary, welcome again. I would give you the room to introduce yourself better, and I'm going to give you the floor right now. Welcome.
Thank you so much. We're very happy to be here. My name is Mary Shostark, and I'll let Jerome briefly introduce himself to start. Go ahead, Jerome.
Thank you, Mary. Hi, everyone. Apologies, I was supposed to be on my phone. I'm on my computer, but as you guys probably have saw, we're dealing with some internet issues here in the United States and at my hospital system. So I am on my phone. So if I accidentally drop, I will come back immediately. Otherwise, I'm Jerome Lee, emergency medicine, critical care, disaster medicine here in Boston at Mass General and Harvard Medical School. Honored to be here and thank you for having us. I'm also the co-founder for Health Tech Without Borders, and we're going to go through at a high level of our programs and what we've done across the globe, and also then focus down on specifically the chatbot. Looking forward to talking to everyone. I'll hand it back to you, Mary.
Thank you so much. And my name is Mary Shostark, like Hadil and Jerome stated, and I am Chief Liaison Officer with Health Tech Without Borders. And I want to tell you just to start off with a little bit about Health Tech Without Borders. We can go to the next slide. Health Tech Without Borders is a nonprofit organization It is based out of the United States and in Switzerland. And we are located with our presence in multiple different countries, as you can see here, everywhere from Ukraine to Mexico, Iraq, India, Pakistan, Philippines, Turkey, the United States, Cameroon, and Sudan. So we are a nonprofit organization. We can go to the next slide. And this nonprofit organization was started because of the Ukraine and Russia war. And when it was started through a LinkedIn post. And it shows the power of technology, because LinkedIn post said, how can we help? Like, what can we do to help with the Ukraine war? And with that, Health Tech Without Borders founders, and I'm so proud to say that I get to work and volunteer alongside of them, were able to get over 40 different technology companies and over 800 medical volunteers who said, we want to help. And that reminds me a lot of your Sudan channel and here on Telegram, which is so powerful to create these networks online. And that is what Health Tech Without Borders is all about. And so together we came together to start with the Ukraine war, but as you can see, we've spread across multiple different countries. Health Tech Without Borders works in a way that is a teams approach. And what I mean by that is that we work together with everyone from individuals to nonprofits to governments to private sectors to technology companies, because we're trying to put people together to be able to help people in areas that need help, whether that's affected by disasters or conflict, climate change, areas afflicted by any type of humanitarian need. And so, next slide. So as I mentioned, we started off in Ukraine and we partnered with local teams on the ground in Ukraine, a company called Doctor Online. And Doctor Online started to provide telehealth services, which Health Tech Without Borders started to help and assist, bringing in different patient providers to be able to help with the process. And here currently you can see some of the statistics. I won't go over all of them, but we have provided over 200,000 telehealth consultations for the country of Ukraine, which is mostly been able to help support families, infectious disease, pediatrics, and general care and prevention, because people, as you know, and like Ukraine and Sudan, there's lots of similarities. They're not able to access care. And so we've been trying to help make care accessible. Next slide. As just to continue to chat a little bit more about our what else we have done in Ukraine before I speak about Cameroon, we have also set up a program in Ukraine called Helping Healers Heal. This is where we have therapist to therapists having conversations with each other so that they can best support patients and people on the ground. We've also been helping work with some hospitals on telehealth systems and some hospital rebuild projects. We are also setting up in different countries in Africa with Project Vital. And we are starting in Africa with a local telemedicine company called iDoctor in Cameroon. And with that, we're partnering with technology companies that are based out of the United States called VC, which is helping us bolster iDoctor's existing model to be able to get access to care with in the west and northwest regions of Cameroon in order to get equitable healthcare and access for everyone. Next slide. We also, as I mentioned, with Health Tech Without Borders, we partner with universities, we partner with different countries, we partner with different organizations all over. And so we've conducted a series of virtual lectures. In Pakistan, we've developed virtual telehealth models and trainings. We also give in-person lectures, and we've also helped in Ukraine with our partner organizations be able to place a container classroom so that students of the nursing department could still continue to learn through virtual education. We've also used partners devices such as the HoloLens, the virtual reality, augmented reality, to be able to assess and see people on the front lines and provide care and consultation remotely. And we're going to talk a little bit more about the tactical medical chatbot in a few slides. Next slide, please. So we are, as I said, a nonprofit organization consisting of many, many different volunteers, and we've had a significant impact already in 2024, and we project that we're going to continue to make an impact, because it is like with partners like yourself and other groups, we hope to grow the organization, help spread the word about what we're doing, and just continue to create this environment where we work together, because all of us are stronger when we work together in collaboration. So next slide, please. So our focus here today is to discuss our medical chatbot. This medical chatbot, as I said, we work with different teams. One of the teams that we've worked with is Microsoft, and Microsoft has helped us develop this medical chatbot, which Jerome is going to go over from here to discuss further details about.
Thank you, Mary. So a quick introduction to our chatbot. So the way it works is it's really a chatbot that is set up to teach the basic protocols around what we call stop the bleed and tactical combat casualty care. And it's sort of broken down into two different parts in that way, because the reason behind this was we heard when we started this first in Ukraine and built it in Ukrainian, is that there was a group of clinicians and non-clinicians that were now unfortunately working on front lines of the war, that needed additional education around what to do when, unfortunately, when you're taking care of patients in the field under fire, or even when the patients come into the emergency departments or trauma casualty collection points there, so that they had the right protocols that they can practice so they know what to do. Right. In many ways, this is similar for the clinicians in the room, like when we learn about how to do CPR, where we have to be very algorithmic about it. It's A, B, C, D, E, so that we don't really need to think about it when we have to do it, since these are all high risk, right? High risk environments, as well as to the point where you don't want to actively think about it when you're doing it, because you just want to sort of go through the process, and it has to be secondhand. And so our chatbot was built to do this with protocols that a lot of folks and clinicians just haven't had to go through in the past, right? It's not part of our normal training unless you go through either disaster medicine or some type of tactical training during your training as a clinician, physician, or nurse, or any other specialty. So we built it out in two ways. The first part is the Stop the Bleed, and it is a curriculum that also came out of our U.S. military Department of Defense that is focused on civilians and people who do not have any medical training. It is very basic. It's just how to save a life, and save a life as quickly as you can. And those steps, as we know, are key in the first few seconds to minutes if someone unfortunately is shot in the arm or leg or somewhere else. So that is called Stop the Bleed, and we use it right now and teach it around the whole United States, including to all of our teachers in schools as well. And that's all built into the chatbot. And it's only a few steps, and we can show it after this, but the basics are really just, you have to be sure you're safe, and then it's about applying the tourniquet properly and as tightly as possible in the right location, and going from there. But beyond that, it's very basic, like I said, really for the non-medical person, the civilian who doesn't have any medical training. The second part is what we call TCCC, or Tactical Combat Casualty Care, that also came out of the Department of Defense and is used all around the world by military personnel as well as first responders. And there's a different curriculum that is modified that you probably have also heard of. It's called TECC, which is the civilian form of a modified tactical combat casualty care, mostly for the civilian environment. It's just slightly modified in different ways, depending on what the local needs are. So on the TCCC side of the chatbot, as you can imagine, it's definitely more complex. It is filled with medical jargon, and it is for that professional medical provider. So it's someone who already has medical training and can sort of go through this chatbot and learn the algorithms of what you want to do and what you need to do when you're going through and taking care of patients in this way. And I can show you, and once we go through the chatbot a little bit, you can sort of see that it is fully algorithmic. It's like CPR, where it's A, B, C, D, E. And it starts from being sure you're safe, how to take care of a patient if unfortunately you're being also fired upon, to, in a safer environment, getting the patient ready for evacuation to a place that can take care of the patient safely. And so it has the entire thing. And we also broke it down into parts. So if you only want to review the part on how to take care of a patient in a safer environment with an eye injury, you could just go through that, as opposed to going through the entire algorithm every time you want to find something. We have deployed this in Ukrainian about 1.5 to 2 years ago. Here are some of the old statistics that you can see on the PowerPoint slide. This was probably about 6 or 7 months ago, where our chatbot has responded to over 32,000 queries, and we had about 500 plus unique users, and this probably has gone up since then. The big difference that we built into the chatbot in Ukraine is that because of some cybersecurity concerns, we decided to lock it down, where you actually have to register, put in an email address. That slowed down the process of getting in. However, for this version for Sudan, we do not need to do that. So once you get to the link, which is down here at the bottom of the PowerPoint slide, or you can use the QR code on the PowerPoint slide as well. It'll take you directly to the chatbot. You do not need to submit an email address or anything, and you can go straight into it. And let me pause there for a second to see if there's any questions before we move on. And apologies, I can't see the chat, so I might need help from Mary or Hadil. Just be sure there's no, or someone else, be sure there's no questions.
Thank you so much, Jaron. Yeah, there isn't a question, but I just wanna let you know about the locations of who are following and listening to you now, from possibly all the states in Sudan, Jaron, even Khartoum and Darfur, and the east and the west of Sudan. So, like, this is just amazing.
Oh, thank you. No, that's great to hear. And, we want to be sure this is helpful. So please, if you guys have any feedback as you use it, please let us know. And please feel free to share the link widely. It can only be used in the countries that I have shared here. So we decided to make it live in Sudan, neighboring countries as needed.
And Jerome, do we want to go through the chatbot in the next slides?
Yeah, so I think this is the last slide. I wonder if now we should just run through the chatbot quickly to show what it looks like. Would that work?
That sounds great. Hadil, are you able to share?
Yes.
Thank you so much.
And as we get the chatbot up, I'll say that usually the courses to teach Stop the Bleed and TCCC are all hands-on in person, or even we can do video-based for some of it. If it's helpful in the future, let us know. We could probably get some videos recorded or otherwise to share. But the hands-on portion of how to put on a tourniquet and otherwise is very helpful. And I understand that we can only get so far with just text in the chatbot. We also created the chatbot to be minimal in terms of there's no videos really and minimal pictures just because of bandwidth. The one big downside of our chatbot right now is you do need an internet connection. It's all only on the web. We are working on an offline version that's in development. So once that's live and we know more about it, I'm happy to share that in the future. It looks like we have our tech. Sorry, go ahead.
And just to add that the chatbot was something that was initially thought, okay, well, maybe we can just deploy some of this to medical providers, but the Stop the Bleed could actually be used for civilians as well, because it is pretty basic. As Jerome said, some of the tactical combat casualty care is more medical based, but this is important skills for anybody to learn in a conflict zone or anywhere. And as Jerome said, even teachers are being taught this in the United States.
Yeah, and that, Mary, that's a great point where I'll share that our experience in Ukraine right now, most of the use is stop the bleed and less on the tactical combat casualty care. So we have a lot of folks going through the stop the bleed, more civilian curriculum at this stage. So to talk through what we see on the screen, as you can see, when you enter the chatbot, you see an option to either look at it and go through it in English or in Arabic. And of course, pick the correct one. For me, it will have to be English, unfortunately. And then you get to pick which where you want to go next. And so we labeled it clearly. The stop the bleed is how do I stop bleeding? And it says civilian versus the professionals, which is the tactical combat casualty care sections. So the first one is, let's go through the first one, the stop the bleed. So if you click on that, then I'll just sort of try to teach you and show you and run through what you should be thinking about at that point. So if it's dangerous, of course, red, if you're in what we call a red zone, right, you have to be careful. And that key is to stay safe and try to get other folks safe as much as you can, but really keeping yourself safe. Yellow is where there's some danger, but not immediate danger. And green, of course, is safe. So you have to be sure you're in a yellow or green zone before you move on. Or else I'll just tell you to stay safe. Yeah, hit yes, perfect. And then I don't think we have to go through the details, but then if you just click through the rest of it, it'll sort of talk through and show you what you should do for different scenarios, like where the bleeding is, where the tourniquet should go, and everything else as you go through the algorithm. And this one should be pretty short. Apologies, I can't quite read it on my screen. I have a really small phone screen, so I'm not sure what's. And there's a few pictures here just to show how to, if there's a wound, to put pressure on. But like I said, really no videos to make sure the bandwidth is correct, so that it uses minimal bandwidth when you're going through it.
And yes, and then it talks to you about how to put the pressure on it through the diagrams and the pictures, and then also asking for you to call for help. These numbers are based in you and Ukraine, and Sudan might have a different phone number there, so please take note of that.
Yeah, and that's actually one feedback is if you guys have a number we should change it to, please let us know. We're happy to modify the chatbot. And maybe we'll go through one of the first scenario on the TCCC side. It says, I think, care under fire professional, CUF. So I'm guessing some of you on. Sorry, go ahead, Mary.
No, we know many of you on this chat are medical. So some of this is more basic, but Jerome will start to take you through the medical areas here and give you some cases. Go ahead, Jerome.
Yeah, so the care under fire, I think, is a unique one that I would recommend to the medical folks on the call if you've never gone through these scenarios. And then so I would just say it's similar where you have to be safe. And then a few things in the field where we think about it. And as you go through it, I can't read it, so I can't tell you what to do next. I think I would do yes.
Remember to protect yourself and your patient, return fire, yes. And take cover. And is the patient conscious? Yes.
So that we could say yes. And then I'll go through the algorithm of if the patient's conscious, what do you do for them versus if they're not. I'll also go through the airway algorithm that is slightly different from most emergency medicine algorithms. As you know, in pre-hospital and in our emergency departments, we're sort of taught to intubate and move forward as much as we can, but not in this care environment. If you're under fire, do not intubate with a light scope, but instead we usually go straight to a cryogyrotomy just because the light can reveal your position, unfortunately. So so I would just go yes and then just keep going through the algorithm and continue.
It talks about applying the tourniquet and where to apply the tourniquet. It gives you pictures here on how and where you should apply the tourniquet, and making sure to secure it in the triangle formation, and then also noting the time that the tourniquet was placed on there. This is something we see many civilians forget to place, and providers forget to place the time which the tourniquet was placed.
Yeah, if you just keep continuing through it, and then all this, and this will go through the entire scenario pathway for all of it. And the care under fire is only a small part of it. So the rest of it can go through and show you how to do a needle decompression to the cryothyrotomy itself, all the way down to hypothermia treatment and other things to think about as you think about transporting the patient to a safer environment for definitive care.
And you always want to make sure that your patient doesn't have any weapons on them, or remove any type of weapons from the patient, and making sure you're safe in the scenario, because sometimes a patient might not be somebody who is on the same side.
But as you can see, it's very formulaic, right? It's like A, B, C. If it's A, do this. If it's B, do that. And that's why we built it, is to sort of have an offline, online, like a way to practice all these protocols before you actually have to use it. So then it's drilled into your head like CPR, so you don't have to think if you have to do this.
And this is taking us through the airway, the respirations, and whether or not somebody has a sucking chest wound and what you need to do. And it takes you through applying the chest seal, and then, assessing for any types of tension pneumothorax. So signs and symptoms that they might have, or anything from hypoxia to respiratory distress and hypotension. And you could see this algorithm and chatbot channel is focused more towards medical provider, because many civilians wouldn't know those words. And then talking you through the whole process of, maybe you're going to have to do a needle decompression. And so it talks about where that primary site is, reminding you of the anatomical locations. It talks about how you need to continue to check for your oxygen saturation and to monitor for signs of any shock, and then initiating supplemental oxygen as needed. It goes into, as we talked about, the airway, the breathing, circulation, and monitoring bleeding control measures. And we're clicking through a lot of these here pretty rapidly, but always considering the fact and need for a potential tourniquet.
And I'm not sure what.
Yeah, go ahead, Charles.
Go ahead. I was just going to say, I'm not sure what would be helpful at this point. Happy to keep clicking through it, or I don't know if you guys want to take a look at the Arabic version next. Just I know I'm mindful of time, so.
Okay. Thank you so much, Jaron and Mary. I would like to give the mic to Abrar. Abrar Al-Alim is the president of SuDRO Sudan. Abrar, would you like to introduce yourself and go through your part?
Oh, thank you, Hadil. Thank you, everyone, for coming today. And thank you, Mary and Jaron, for joining us. It's Abrar Al-Alim, and a community medicine resident at Sudan Medical Specialization Board, and the president of SuDRO Sudan. And I do have over 4 years of experience in CPD activities and a special interest in digital health and learning. And we're so excited, Mary and Jaron, to learn about your initiative and the impactful work that you're doing to facilitate access for healthcare services in underserved region and around the globe. And I really can't wait to have some of our team members using your chatbot and to give us a feedback on how was the experience using it, because I think this is amazing. I'm really amazed, I'm astonished. And I can imagine how our life is going to be way facilitated and way easy after such a brilliant idea. So welcome again, and I do have a couple of questions, just to understand things in a different way, or from a different kind of angle. So Mary and Jaron, I would like to know what kind of challenges you have encountered in these countries, especially those with, context that is similar to Sudan?
Related to the chatbot or just in general?
In general, and specifically for the chatbot.
And maybe I could start. I think, thank you. And thank you for, and it's an honor to be here, of course. And even beyond the chatbot, please let us know how we can support in other ways, whether it's through Health Tech Without Borders and what we can offer versus even personally and otherwise, right? We're here to serve you guys and do whatever we can to make it hopefully better for you guys. So to the question, I think I'll say that what we've learned from working in other conflict zones, knowing that it's all different, and I know you guys have unique challenges, is it's really about, unfortunately, the loss of healthcare and access to healthcare in general, right? I think the chatbot has a very focused educational component to try to support a patient population like folks with trauma, right, who are unfortunately shot or otherwise. But as a global level, what we see and hear about is the lack of access to basic medications, to diabetes care, to hypertensive care. And then, of course, that goes all the way up to the complex care for cancer and everything else that all gets disrupted with something like what's happening in Sudan. And that's what is the majority of the work that we have to do as humanitarians, as physicians, and as clinicians that want to support countries like Sudan and other places being affected by conflict.
Amazing, Jaren. And that is so important to put into consideration because, for example, if I want to pull up one of the technical challenges that I might see it coming, and we have already faced it, is the internet instability. And I have seen during the presentation that an offline version is coming soon. So we can't wait to have that as well. So how friendly it is to use the chatbot in areas where the internet is not at its best situation?
So I think we try to build the chatbot minimally. As you can see, it's mostly text, maybe 3 pictures at best. So you need internet, though. Unfortunately, with zero internet, you can't get on. But with internet, I'm hopeful that, and we've tested this in certain areas where if you have some bandwidth, you should be able to get on the chatbot and go through it. I do agree that offline version that we've been talking about and working on, I'll say for over a year now, we very much want to finish it. I don't think it's as close as we want it to be. That's one thing I'll say. I wish I could turn it on and give it to you guys now, but I hope we're getting closer every day.
Yeah, we can understand, but we're looking forward to it and we will be following. Thank you
One
so
other
much.
And I
thing.
think just,
Sorry.
oh, go ahead, John.
One other thing I'll say is our website, link to this will be up next week. I'll share it later on once it's live. But right now, the only way to get to the chatbot is through the link and the VR code that we shared.
Okay,
And I just
great.
wanted to say we want to thank so many of our partners because we work with wonderful teams across the world that help us put together projects such as the chatbot. And like Jerome said, we're happy to help in any type of other kind of way if people have a suggestion or a need. So please feel free to reach out. And we will try our best to connect you with people or ourselves and help out.
Oh, thank you so much, Jaren and Mary. It's amazing, and we're so delighted and thrilled to have you working with us. And hopefully, we can reach a point where we can help you solve bigger problems in the future. And I was so amazed also by the contextualization of the information in the chatbot and the protocols as well. I just want to know further, like, how is it flexible to contextualize certain protocols? Because I know there are general protocols for general cases and different scenarios, but when we look at a country like Sudan, we don't even have like protocols for most of the cases that we have. There are no like country-based protocols, maybe hospital-based or state-based protocols in most of the cases. So how flexible it is to incorporate maybe a very local approach to one of the cases or one of the scenarios.
Yeah, definitely. I think we can definitely do that, knowing that I do know that there's parts of this chatbot right now that is not fully localized even to Ukraine. For example, we do recommend some antibiotics that probably are not available in Ukraine and might not be available in Sudan. But we would love, as you guys go through it, if you find things that we should update or change, just so that it can be more usable to to folks in Sudan. Please let us know. We are happy to modify it. So it's very easy for us to edit the text.
Yeah, and I just
Sure,
want to
that's
say
amazing.
it
Yes,
is
go ahead.
definitely easy for us to edit the text. The chatbot was initially built in English and Ukrainian, and so we're very happy that we had a team that helped us translate into Arabic. So um, any suggestions or anything that is should be built better or changed or be more culturally sensitive, please, we are always open to ideas and suggestions.
That's amazing. We're looking forward to try it further, and definitely, if we have like any idea or anything coming up, we're going to connect with you guys, and we will try to make the experience more rich and to advance it even more. Um, hopefully, um, I think I have like one or two questions. My next question is about the role of your local or regional partners, maybe like SuDRO. Like, are they any specific things that you would like us to bring to the table or to help you with, or anything in your mind?
That's a great question. I think that we should continue talking and trying to figure out how, and in many ways, we want to support you guys. And we do have a network between Mary and I and Health Tech and all of our contacts within the region and within the area. So if there's ways that we can support too, or even just bring folks together, let us know. We're happy to make calls or talk to folks and even connect you guys with other folks. But right now, I'll say, in many ways, we're trying to stand by to see how we can support. And we've been watching the horrors in Sudan since the beginning, but we didn't really know how we can really support and add value until now with the chatbot. Because we also don't want to add noise and cause more chaos, right? We don't want to just go in and do something if it's not going to be helpful.
Oh, thank you so much, Darren, for that. And I would like to reassure you that right now, looking at the situation in Sudan, like whatever that is going to serve and to help, even if it's for a very small number of people, it's definitely something wanted and definitely welcome, and it will has its impact for sure. And I would like to encourage all our SuDRO members and my colleagues, just since you have attended this session and you've been introduced to the chatbot, please try to use it, try to share it with your colleagues, and let's enrich the experience in Sudan. And we all coming from that background, so we do know the challenges that we're facing. So let's make the best use of this opportunity. My last question will be a little bit technical, and it's about the data that are going to be entered to the chatbot. Would they be available maybe for later use? Because part of our work in SuDRO is we just try to reflect the situation through patients' data, through maybe community-based activities data, and also some reflections from the members. So would it be available, for example, for documentation purposes, or how is it going to go when it comes to the information and data?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'll say from our side, we're happy to freely share whatever we get. A big part of us, and was work with the Microsoft disaster team, and they're funding it from their programming side. It was all pro bono, of course, through their donation of programming services and also the platform and the creation of the chatbot. That because of that, we don't have a robust analytics side, knowing that we can get some data, and we also decided to not collect too much data for a lot of reasons, right? Where we don't want to, at least in Ukraine, and similarly, I'm sure here, is that we didn't really want to track where people were accessing it, because that data potentially can be used in harmful ways. And so we're very careful about what data we collect. So most of the data is all an aggregate, and we're happy to share it over time. It's really about what was used, what part of the chatbot has been used, how many users, and how many replies. But the granularity of the data is going to be minimal at this stage, sort of by the way we designed it, if that makes sense.
Totally. I do agree, and I do support the whole idea. And at some point, it also goes for the great vision or the mission of the chatbot itself, and having the minimal, but yet it's impactful and can reflect and can show the situation and can stress on what's going on. That would be more than enough for us at this stage. So thank you so much, Darren and Mary. I think over with my questions. Do you have any questions for us, guys? Mary and Darren, do you have any questions
No,
or anything to add?
I just want to say I know everything that's happening over there, and we all know, and we know that sometimes something with technology is not the number one thing that is needed. But if there is anything related to technology, or potentially contacts with related to getting delivery or supplies or anything like that, please feel free to reach out to. We have a lot of different contacts, and maybe there's ways that we can help in other ways that are just outside of technology as well. So, and some of the might involve technology indirectly through supply chain. So please do feel free to reach out.
And just to add to that, I know that you guys already have a robust network of clinicians and teachers and lecturers. We also, between Mary and I, know many great speakers on all the different topics, from this type of topic, from tactical medicine all the way to cancer care. So please reach out to us too if you're ever looking for people to teach. We're happy to find folks as well.
Oh, sure, definitely, Darren and Marian. Thank you so much for the reassurance and for the great work. It's very profound, and we reassure you that it's going to be something for us in Sudan. And definitely, we're happy to connect you and to connect with your faculty as well, and all those who can help from your side. And also, we have many people who would be interested and happy to share, especially when it comes to the contextualization of the chatbot maybe, or for the protocols or anything that can help later. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Over to you, Hadil.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Abrar. Jaron and Mary, I just want to walk you through some of the comments in our chat. One of our members said that it's like you guys have formulated the whole guidelines of emergency into an easy and accessible pot. So thank you so much. And another comment is that first aid is now more easily, and this is a brilliant idea. Another comment from Bara'a, it's actually a good idea. Specifically, some people have no idea about how to deal with some or most of the emergencies. So this is the time, and it will be a life-saving. I love it so much. Another one from Wafa, also it's a reminder for the professionals through emergency situation, especially if one of your family are in need of any help during crisis with such limited resources like in Sudan. And we have a question. It says, can the bot be used to collect data in any form, like for us or for you guys in charge?
Sorry, do you mind repeating the question about the data?
Can this bot be used to collect data, or how are you guys collect your statistics from it?
Oh, that's a good question. So it collects minimal data to protect the students that are using it and you guys that are using it. All we know are unique people or, folks who join, and then we know how far and what part of the chatbot is used. But that's really all the data that's collected. It's very minimal data.
Okay. And some of our Sudanese volunteers outside Sudan in not eligible countries are asking you to like formulate like registration or signing in by nationality. So even if I'm out of Sudan but I'm Sudanese, I can get access to it.
No, that's a great question. Let me read off the list of the countries that it's accessible from. I think if you guys want, you feel free to share our slides. But the list is, of course, Sudan, Egypt, South Sudan, CAR, Chad, Eritrea, Ethiopia, and Libya right now. But if there are other countries you guys think would be helpful, let us know. We can work on that as well.
Okay, we have another question from Iman. She says, is there any chance to search specific guidelines in the bot instead of like going step by step on it?
That's a great question. There is not a way to do that right now. Our next generation chatbot might have generative AI in it that you can talk to it. For this one, we did break it down into different sections that once you go into it, you see. So you don't have to go through it all step by step. So let's say you just want to see eye injury. There's a way to get to just eye injury and skip all the steps to get there. So yes, so we built it that way as like book chapters, but there's no way to search it.
Okay, perfect. We have a raised hand from Rayan. Rayan, do you have any question?
Okay, thank you. I want to thank you all for this great work. I just have one comment regarding the chatbot. As you know, the current conflict in Sudan is about gunshot, and most of hospitals are gunshotted, and there is an unconscious patients and so on. So can add this in chatbot about how to deal with gunshot and how to deal with unconscious patients and something like that. This is what we are facing nowadays. And thank you again for your hard work.
Thank you, Rayan, for question. Rayan is asking about how to deal with bullets and gunshots. Jaron, is there any option in the chatbot?
It is. It depends on at what level. First is our chatbot is all about gunshot victims and how to treat them to save the life as much as we can. Because as we know, someone who's shot, unfortunately, the first few minutes are key, right? And so this is about what to do in those first few minutes to save their life and to get them to a place like the hospital to take care of them more definitively. The second part of this is if we're asking about how to treat the patient in the hospital, whether it's surgical, emergency medicine wise, it is not in the chatbot. However, we can have another discussion about that, and I can give a lecture, Mary can as well. We can even bring in some of our trauma surgeons to talk through cases or think about specific needs. So as you can imagine, there's a whole curriculum around advanced trauma life support that we can also talk through, but that is not in this chatbot, unfortunately.
Okay, thank you so much, Jaron. Now let's go, guys, to our case-based discussion. We do have a couple of cases that I would love from you to use the chatbot in order to answer our questions. So you have the choice, guys. Either you open the website from your side, or I can do it for you. Okay. So let's start with the first case. I just wanna remind you that these are real case scenarios that have been encountered in Khartoum and Jazeera states. Okay, so for the first case, You were the doctor on call at a local hospital in Jazeera State, and it was relatively quiet evening until the ER phone rang with a call about civilian injured in an armed conflict that had suddenly erupted in the area. The patient, he's a 55 years old male, was brought to you by a local volunteers who described that he was caught in a crossfire while trying to take shelter during the sudden outbreak of violence. So questions for discussion. Number 1, what's your first step? Number 2, what will you do to stop the bleeding? طيب يا جماعة، الكيس دي حقيقية كانت لاقتني لما أنا كنت شغالة في الجزيرة. فإحنا كنا شغالين في المستشفى، بعدين جابوا لنا واحد عمره 55 سنة وكان injured, and this is the picture of the patient. So what will you do and what will be your first step? We need volunteers. One of you guys can raise his or her hand, or you can type in the chat. هتتعاملوا كيف في اللحظة دي يا شباب؟ وممكن حتى تفتحوا الشات بوت من جهتكم وتورونا في الحتة حقت stop the bleeding. زي ما شايفين الانجري he is injured in his arm and he is bleeding now. So what's your first step? Okay. ممكن متطوع منكم يفتح المايك أو حتى تكتبوا لنا في الشات. حتتصرفوا كيف في اللحظة دي؟ This is the case again, and I can walk you through the chatbot as well. يلا يا جماعة، عايزين متطوع منكم either تكتبوا في الشات أو ترفعوا يدينكم وتشاركوا. You can open your mic immediately. Yes. Yes نعمة ولا؟
Okay, Hadith. First thing to stop the bleeding is compressions. So you said that the bleeding is in his arm, right?
Yes.
Okay. So if I have a tourniquet, I will apply a tourniquet. If I don't have a tourniquet, I will see anything that's available, like in the surroundings, that can act as a tourniquet so that I can stop the bleeding. Further,
Okay.
I can go to the ABCs and see the patient's general condition.
تمام. Thank you so much يا نعمة. طيب نشوف باقي الإجابات. في ناس بيقولوا إنه إحنا نبدأ resuscitation by ABCs، وناس بيقولوا لا apply pressure to stop the bleeding first. فرأيكم شنو؟ ممكن أي زول يكتب لنا رأيه. So ABCs first or to stop the bleeding first. زي ما شايفين في الشاشة قدامكم ده الشات بوت. دخلت على العربي هنا how to stop the bleeding for civilians. دل الناس اللي يعني ما عندهم خلفية طبية، فحتكون حاجات بس basics. طيب لو كملنا في السيناريو، الصورة اللي وريتكم لها دي كانت في حي في الحصحيصة، ولما كانوا جابوا لنا البيشن ما كان في خطر. So this is yellow or green. حقول نعم. هل أنت في منطقة صفراء أو خضراء؟ أيوة، لأنه لما جابوا لنا البيشن ما كان في خطر. بعدين سألني هل مجموعة الإسعافات الأولية للصدمات متاحة ولا لا، يعني هل موجودة ولا لا. في اللحظة دي كانت أيوة موجودة معي. Where is the wound؟ برضو شفنا في الصورة it was in his arm. Okay. One minute. طيب so in his arm. تمام. yes you're right. زي ما موجود عندنا هنا I have to stop the running bleeding أول by applying the tourniquet زي ما انتم شايفين هسه في الصورة، وحتى ما إلا تكون like typical tourniquet زي هنا. يعني براكم انتم قلتوا we do have limited resources. ممكن إذا عندكم شاش نظيف أو قطعة نظيفة مبدئيا أو بأي حاجة أحاول إنه أنا to stop the bleeding by applying the tourniquet proximal to the bleeder. يعني هو بينزف في يده من هنا، أنا بمشي proximal له وبعدين بربط التورنيكيت. يعني زي في حالة لما وريتكم الصورة إحنا برضو ما كان عندنا حاجات كتيرة، فاستعملت في النهاية الشاش عشان نوقف البليدر الحاليا أسي شغال، حتى بعد ذاك أرجع تاني أشوف ال ABCs. أوكي. فزي ما شايفين في الشاشة we are going through الشات بوت، وهسي في اللحظة دي for civilians it's only basics. فخلاص هو وقفنا ورجعنا تاني للصفحة الأولى عشان أنا أشوف تاني محتاجة شنو. لكن at this point الخطر عندي أنا إنه أنا أوقف البليدر. أوكي. طيب again لو في أي زول عنده أي سؤال، لو في زول حاب يشاركنا يعني feel free to open your mic أو اكتبوا لنا في الشات. Okay, so this is regarding case 1 for the bleeder. Let's go for case 2. دي كانت في الخرطوم. You were volunteered to work in your local neighborhood in Khartoum providing medical assistance amidst the ongoing armed conflicts in Sudan. The evening had been unusually busy due to the escalating violence in the area. Suddenly, a frantic family brought in a young boy who had been injured in a crossfire. The patient, he is 10 years old, and he was hit by a debris from an explosion while they were trying to evacuate their home. والحاجة دي حصلت almost لنا كلنا الناس اللي طلعنا من الخرطوم متأخر، إنه الاشتباكات كانت كثيرة شديد والدانات كانت بتقع almost everywhere. A lot of injured patients from debris من explosions والشظايا حقت يعني الأسلحة وكده كانوا بيجونا، فمرات ما بنكون عارفين نتعامل معهم كيف. So questions for discussion. Number 1, what's your first step again, and what are the steps of wound dressing, for example? This is our patient 10 years old. جانا بيده مضروبة بالشظايا، وحتى ناس البيت كانوا حاولوا إنهم يعني في البداية بس يوقفوا النزيف، فهم فعلا هم عملوا الخطوة الأولى بتاعت applying البريشر، بعدين جابوه لك عشان أنت تتصرف. العيادة دي كانت العيادة حقت سودرو CMRT في اللاماب، كنا شغالين فيها، حتى كنا شغالين في مسجد زي ما شايفين الباك جراوند. ها يا جماعة حتتصرفوا كيف في لحظة زي دي؟ I'm pretty sure الحاجة دي حصلت almost لنا كلنا وإحنا شغالين في واحدة من الولايات اللي اتضررت بالحرب. فحتتصرفوا كيف في اللحظة دي؟ Again, you can open your mic or you can type in the chat. يلا. لو عايزين ممكن نمشي بالشات بوت. عايزين واحد فولنتير منكم يوريني أنا بالشات بوت أمشي وين.
اوكي يا هديل، وفاء قالت امشي بالبوت كتدريب عليه. I think it's a good suggestion. What do you think?
تمام طوالي يا وفاء. open your mic وأنا هفتح لك الشات بوت وريني أنا أضغط شنو أو أمشي وين. طيب تفضل يا وفاء. ريلي انت وين؟ طيب في إجابة to do an x-ray، ما كان متاح لنا x-ray في اللحظة دي. like we were basically in a mosque. طيب أريل غالبا مشكلة شبكة، بس أريل can you open your mic like you're the emergency expert here صح؟ open your mic ومشيني مع البرنامج. أنا I'm sharing my screen أسي وفاتحة الشات بوت بالعربي. يلا يا وفاء رجعنا لك تاني، حتقعدوا تتعازموا لنا. يلا يا وفاء open your mic ووريني أضغط شنو أمشي وين. تخيلي هسي إنه أنت الفاتحة الشات بوت. يلا you can unmute yourself يا وفاء.
طيب السلام عليكم.
عليكم السلام.
حسب ما فهمت إنه هو حتى عندكم في الجامعة صح؟
يس.
وما في نزيف.
ما في نزيف لا.
ما في نزيف معناها هنا مفروض العناية الميدانية للمحترف صح؟ إذا فهمت البوت.
أيوة صح.
طيب العناية بالإقلاع النفوس الدورية. نعم هو بتنطبق عليه شنو؟ ما في إصابة عين، الجهاز التنفسي قلتوا ما فيه حاجة، circularity ما فيها، respiration ما فيها حاجة.
أيوة هي جروح صح؟
طيب هنا معناه التحكم في الألم يسيم بيه
أيوة.
ولو هم خالطينها كلها سوا
هي كلها سوا. هي كلها سوا. هسي أنا دخلتها هنا بفرق بعد هنا دي البين مانجمنت الانتيبيوتكس الفراكشرز وكده، فتتوقعي نبدأ بشنو؟
المين بروبلم عنده في شنو؟ عنده شنو؟ يسي امبين. لا ممكن نخش في شوك بالبين ذاته. يسي
لا
امبين
it's not he is in pain لكن it's not severe، بس يعني من الجرحى.
سيفير. في فراكشر واضح، في ديفورمتي واضحة عنده في يده؟
no
معناه حنمشي في المضادات الحيوية. بس احنا ناس باطنية غاية دخلتونا الجراحة.
عشان كده الشات بوت عشان يساعدك
شوية.
طيب حقرب المايك كده كويس واضح؟
شكرا.
أيوة
شوية
ممتاز.
أوضح. تفضلي.
طيب المضاد الحيوي عندكم available antibiotic كان؟
يس.
طيب معناه حادي.
طيب هو كده هنا قال موكسيفلوكساسيلين صح؟ لكن ما متوفر عندنا. احنا كنا بندي أموكلان، بندي سيفيكزيم 400 ملي جرام، ده عندنا السيفيكزيم.
اوكي تمام.
طيب بعد yes excellent. so الشات بوت وداك يا وفاء لأنه انت قلنا احنا he is not in severe pain، فمشينا طوالي في الانتيبيوتكس حسب الافيلبل احنا اديناه الانتيبيوتكس، بعدين نجي for management of الوند فطوالي قال لك فحص وعلاج الجروح، فلضمان السيطرة على النزيف وحماية الجرح. خلاص.
احنا نقول I will follow the instruction. okay
perfect. فهو ايوه هو اوريدي اداك كل الاوبشن هنا. اذا كانت الجروح والجرح ذاته وين، ما هو هنا ما سألني الجرح وين، مثلا لو كان في الجسم في الترنك او حتى هنا لو كان في حروق، لانه يعني اكيد جرح بسبب شظايا بتاعت متفجرات ولا دانة ولا كده حيكون في حروق. ايوه فهنا قال لك مصاب بالحروق. طيب نقول نعم
يعني
ودانا لقدام. ايوه في الوجه او العنق لانه ده الاساسي. ايوه لا هو بس جا في يده، الشظايا ضربته في يده. يلا ده كلام ناس جراحة بحت صح؟
هاي بالغ معي.
كان مفروض ده يكون سؤال قليل بصراحة يعني.
مفروض بعد كل الناس
أيوة
أقل من
لكن
20
it's basic.
أقل من 20.
أيوة
طيب ما
it's
بتكون في
أقل من
تفاصيل
20.
بعد ذاك للريموفل للشظايا والحاجات دي ما بخش فيها صح؟ بس
أي
هعمل ABC وأرسل لأقرب مستشفى.
أيوة وحسب يعني أنا من خياراتي وفي النهاية وداني بالالجوريثم لحسب المين كومبلينز أنا قاعد أقول شنو. لو مشيت بجهة تانية إنه مثلا الووند أو الفراكشرز أو كده بوديني بجهة تانية في الالجوريثم برضو.
أوكي.
ودائما بتقدري ترجعي لورا تشوفي مثلا لو عايزة تشوفي باقي الأوبشنز.
أوكي.
اوكي تمام. ثانك يو سو ماتش يا وفاء.
It was very
عصرنا
ABC
عليكي
بس
بالباطنية دي.
هتودي. أيوة برضه التفريغ بس ما شغال في السعودية هنا يعني ما بستفيد منه لكن nice to know يعني how to use it.
وهسي حيكون دورنا يا وفاء إنه إحنا ننشره لأتيامنا في كل الجروبات حقتنا، بالذات لو عندك زملائك أو ناس حاليا لسه شغالين في السودان، لأنه حتى الناس اللي في السودان مثلا متابعيننا في الشات من نيالا في الخرطوم ومدرمان وغيره، الناس ما بيغلبوا حيلة بستار لينك بأي شيء بيلقوا شبكة. let's share this link with them عشان يستفيدوا يعني منه، لأنه it require minimal internet
Yes
it's better
بعدين هو
to share it with them.
بيتوقع منك كطبيب مهما كان تخصصك إنك تساعد. يعني أنا لو زول بتاع الباطنية ما هو زول حيفهم النقطة دي المفروض أنا to intervene يعني. فهو
yes
مفيد حتى بالنسبة
definitely ومعلومات مهمة مفروض الناس كلها تكون عارفاها. وحتى لو ما مثلا هسه التو كيسز اللي وريتكم لها دي حالات نحن مرينا بها، يمكن في اللحظة اللي يجيك البيشنز انت ما تعرف تتصرف، فأفضل من بدري انك انت تشوف الشات بوت ده وتمشي براك يعني ثرو الحاجات تخليها في بالك. يعني بيبقى بجد كأنه كورس بتاع إسعافات أولية.
السينيور ذات ممكن يكون مشغول تكون حالات كثيرة، فأنت حتى لو جونيور المفروض تتصرف وتعمل ABC.
Yes, perfect. Thank you so much يا وفاء. وشكرا لكل الحضور. وقبليهم thank you so much for Jaron and Mary. I'm sorry I've been talking in Arabic a bit more.
No
لكن
problem.
I was just explaining the chatbot and going through the cases for my colleagues, and I can assure you they are very happy and they are motivated and excited to share the link with our colleagues.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day and evening.
Yeah, thank you for having us again, and thank you.
Okay, back to you, Neema, if you have anything to wrap up the session.
To be honest, I just want to take a moment and thank Jaren and Mary for this amazing opportunity and brilliant idea. Like, I just can't express how I'm feeling and how it's going to be very helpful for such a country, for our beloved country, and how it's going to help all the healthcare professionals in managing very difficult cases. Thank you again. I really can't thank you enough for having you today. And I think we can wrap up the session. Thank you all for joining and for attending. It has been wonderful with all of you.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
See you guys next time. كل الماتيريالز حتكون موجودة في التريننج channel. شكرا لحضوركم. تصبحوا على خير. Make sure to share the link مع كل زملائكم الحاليا شغالين في السودان، وأبقوا عافية و let's keep eyes on Sudan. Thank you so much.